What's the latest score with the politics in Guyana? Because there is now international pressure, another court matter, some of the latest developments in the Guyana election saga. Citizens have been awaiting results since the March 2nd polls. What is the opposition's take on these latest developments? We'll be joined now by the PPP Civic member, Bishop Juan Edghill, former junior finance minister. We spoke with him a couple of weeks ago when we were anticipating the CCJ ruling. Now that the ruling has come down, yet still we see the position of the APNU-AFC. Bishop Edghill, good of you to join us once again this morning to continue our dialogue. What is your perspective on these latest developments?
Well, good morning, and good morning to all of your viewers. This is a display of infantile politics by the Granger-led administration, seemingly thinking that they can take on the whole world by being defiant. It's a clear act of desperation. It is downright stupidity, and it borders on sacrificing an entire nation for selfish reasons. They have gone to the court for matters that were already determined by the CCJ. This afternoon is the oral arguments before the Chief Justice of Guyana. And it's just another delay tactic. It's dilatory. It is seeking to frustrate. And now we are advised that the international community, they are tightening the noose around the neck of this Granger-led administration. The light is at the end of the tunnel, though. We believe this will come to an end shortly. It has been a long 19+ weeks, but conclusion is coming soon.
And how would you respond? Because I'm watching the online edition of the Guyana Chronicle, which from all the reporting has been solidly behind the incumbents in Guyana. And if I could just read a bit of that, which I'm sure you will be aware anyway, but for a broader audience, it's important that they be aware. The ruling coalition will not buckle under pressure, according to Joseph Harman, the General Secretary of a Partnership for National Unity. And he's also added that the entire electoral process is still ongoing. So from their point of view, Bishop Edghill, they are saying that it's not about going against the process, it's not about violating any sort of issue related to people's right to determine who should represent them. They say that it's an ongoing process, and that process is just happening to take a bit longer than usual. Well,
that's the narrative they're seeking to create. Joseph Harman is a dishonorable utensil that is seeking to spew a narrative to satisfy some political end, to deceive the few people that they think that they control in Guyana. But what is the reality? They are saying that they will not bend. It was the same Joseph Harman and the PNC-led APNU-AFC that encouraged the Chief Elections Officer, Lowenfield, to discard 115,000 votes so that they could get a win.
Do you know that as a fact, Bishop? If you would allow me to intervene, I mean, we have to be careful when these charges are made. Do you know that as a fact that Keith Lowenfield, the CEO of GCOM, was influenced directly by the PNC or any representative of the APNU-AFC?
It is our contention it's all a plot that Lowenfield is a part of. Lowenfield has always acted in concert with the 3 PNC-nominated commissioners at GCOM. Their positions have always been the same. The narrative coming from both sides, the GCOM Commission, the APNU-AFC government, and the actions of the Chief Elections Officer has always been one and the same. It's a well-choreographed plot that is transparent for the world to see.
So how was he appointed, Bishop Edghill? If you would allow me to ask, how was he, because correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he appointed CEO in the time of the PPP Civic? So how did he get that appointment?
Well, you see, that is a narrative that must be corrected. The government of the day does not appoint the Chief Elections Officer. It is the GCOM Commission that appoints the chief elections officer. GCOM is a constitutional body, separate and apart, and according to the articles of the Constitution, is not subject to the direction or control of any other authority, which means the executive has no, I should say, should have no influence over GCOM. So Mr. Lowenfield got an appointment by an independent constitutional body. It only means that it happened while the PPP was in government. But the PPP had nothing to do with his appointment.
Right. I'm glad that you were able to put that perspective as well. So, as far as we understand it, help us, Bishop Edghill, in trying to get a sense, especially for, I know we have a tremendous number of anxious Guyanese who are based here in Trinidad and Tobago, wondering if or when this entire matter is going to be resolved.
It's going to be resolved soon, because what they're seeking to do is ridiculous. The same man who invalidated 115,000 votes has now gone to a pre-recount figure that clearly shows there were more than 15,000 votes added that did not exist in the ballot boxes. So the recount shows that there were 460,000 valid votes. The cry of the APNU-AFC, valid votes only. Mr. Lowenfield's report has 475,000 plus valid votes. Where did he get the extra voters from? It was claimant Mingo's fraudulent numbers that he's seeking to do. So here it is, we have a rogue chief elections officer who has refused to display for the world to see the statements of poll that were generated, the legal documents. We ended up into a recount. The recount has shown that Mingo made fraudulent declarations on March 5th and on March 13th. Mr. Lowenfield, as the chief elections officer, is now offering to the Guyana Elections Commission a report that says we could only use the fraudulent numbers that came from District 4 returning officer because the CCJ said that is so, when the CCJ said nothing of the sort. So they are seeking to misinterpret the rulings of the CCJ to again buy themselves more time and carry out a mischievous act in an attempt to steal an election. And they're now going to the court to say, we intended to steal this election, but look, they're not allowing us to steal it. Please give us permission to steal it. That is what the court case is all about.
And in that sense, well, of course, we know it's not going to be framed with those exact words that you said, but the fact is that because it's going to court again, and it was 3 Saturdays ago that the Court of Appeal in Guyana ruled in favor by majority decision in the matter raised by Ms. Eslyn David, you say that this is going to be resolved soon. Bishop, as you know only too well, soon could be next week, soon could be next 5 years. It depends on how you perceive it. Is this something that could be sustained in Guyana for the foreseeable future? Because it seems that it's going to be legal action after legal action in this particular matter.
Well, I believe they're running out of options. I believe they're running out of options. If the justices at Guyana's Court of Appeal have not seen that every time they make an incursion into this matter to facilitate the government lingering in power, it is knocked down by the CCJ, then something is wrong. All Guyanese understand that we are dealing here with politics, and the politics is a devious kind of a politics that is being orchestrated by Granger himself, who will be the main beneficiary of this diabolical plot that they are seeking to perpetuate on the people of Guyana. But all of the forces, internally and internationally, are standing up against this form of an injustice. We have a recount where Mr. Granger himself declared to the whole world that CARICOM is the most legitimate interlocutor. CARICOM scrutinized the recount. CARICOM put out a report and says there are of the unshakable belief that the recount provides a legitimate and credible basis for the declaration of the winner of these elections. But we have people who are desperate for power, who are not willing to concede, who are not willing to put Guyana first, who are looking after their own self-interest, and they're seeking to jeopardize the future of the masses in Guyana. And that is what the international community is denouncing.
And how would you respond, Bishop Edghill, to the assertion that the PPP Civic are unpatriotic when you appear to be urging international interests, whether it's the United States, the UK, the European Union, Canada, whoever else, to tighten the screws on Guyana? Aren't you basically creating an environment for more suffering for the Guyanese people?
Absolutely not. Because the targeted sanctions that we're appealing for are for the individuals, the riggers. And that is why even the action of Secretary of State Pompeo was towards the riggers. It's not sanctioning all Guyanese that they can't go to America and revocation and restriction of visas. It is for the individuals. And if you go back to our history, David Granger and the AFC in 2015 were calling exactly for the same things on the then PPPC administration because of prorogation. The parliament was prorogued to facilitate political dialogue to see if we could have gotten out of the mess we have found ourselves in, which is a legitimate instrument to be used according to the Constitution. And during prorogation, Granger, Ramjatan, and all of the coalition were asking for sanctions on the PPPC government. So they are being very duplicitous in this matter. They are exhibiting their two-faced approach and their two-tongued approach. They're speaking with forked tongues on this matter. We are not wanting Guyana to suffer. We want these authoritarians, these despotic dictators that are in the making to be removed. They must step aside. They must obey the voice of the masses of Guyana. They must comply with the democratic will of the people. They've signed on to a charter at CARICOM. They've signed on to a charter at the OAS. And all of those charters indicate that the people deserve democracy, and the government of the day must be promoting democracy. And what we have here is dictatorship being orchestrated and hoisted and foisted upon the people of Guyana by a desperate bunch of people.
And Bishop Edghill,
we're not seeking to punish Guyanese. We are seeking to liberate Guyanese so that they could get on the path of prosperity. But these obstacles, these undemocratic forces, these evil, wicked, intended actions must come to an end and allow Guyanese to be able to go forward.
Bishop Edghill, we just have a couple of minutes left, and as usual, we appreciate you taking the time to offer this perspective. But because this is becoming so entangled as far as legal matters are concerned, and you never know when this is going to be resolved, wouldn't going back to the polls create at least an environment to wipe the slate clean and have a proper election? Is that an option in the few seconds we have available?
It is not an option. It is what the APNU would like, and that's the narrative that they're selling. The fact that they have lost the elections, they would like to have a non-declaration and new elections. But it's all part of the plot for them to remain in power. We will not succumb to that. These elections are not over. These elections will be over when there is a declaration. And for all your viewers, they must understand, the votes have been counted, they have been recounted. We are at the stage of a declaration where a report is to be presented to the GCOM for them to make a declaration. This new court case, which will be heard this afternoon, is about them preventing the chief elections officer from presenting the accurate report for there to be a declaration. Why they don't want a declaration? They told you and the whole world that they won. Why is it that they don't want the declaration to be made? Because they intended to steal an election, and their stealing have been exposed. Their fraudulent efforts have been exposed, and now they are backed against a wall, so they would like to have new elections. But the new elections is not the solution. What we need now is to bring to an end and have a declaration and let the legitimate government assume office and develop Guyana for the benefit of all Guyanese.
Bishop Edghill, thank you very much again for taking the time to be with us this morning. Bishop Juan Edghill, former Junior Finance Minister with the PPP.